men, and then the World Championships in Sweden. But Rob Asprey says the Australians have a tough task.
At 31, Bob Tuckett is the veteran of the squad. In the past 12 years, he's represented Australia 150 times. And although the 9 members of the squad have practiced 3 hours a day for the past 10 weeks, compared to their rivals, the Australians can only be rated part-time amateurs.
The countries we'll be playing will be totally professional. They'll be preparing up to about 6 or 7 hours per day, so we are starting a bit behind the 8 ball.
Must be pretty frustrating. Do you ever think it's all worthwhile?
Well, sometimes you wonder. You make a lot of sacrifices. You have to sacrifice a lot, and sometimes you do wonder, but the honour of representing Australia, and I think it is all worthwhile, yes.
To add to their frustrations, the cost of the 5-week tour is being largely met by the team members. But today, Bob Tuckett and Tepper showed they still have a sense of humour, finishing their tough practice session in an unconventional manner, to say the least. Rob Asprey, National 9.
Top table tennis players are set to converge on Melbourne to compete for the richest purse ever offered in Australian table tennis. 5 of the top 10 nations, including world champions China, will do battle in a fortnight's time for the Victoria Cup.
To most people, table tennis or ping pong is a social game to play inside when it's too wet to do anything else. Yet the top professional players in the world can make up to $200,000 per year. Melbourne will play host to some of the world's finest exponents of the game from August 15th to the 18th. An international table tennis classic to be played at the Melbourne Sports and Entertainment Centre. Playing in the tournament is the world's #1 country, China, and the top singles player, Wang Huiyan. Other countries competing include 2nd-ranked Sweden, 4th-ranked Japan, 9th-ranked Republic of Korea, and England, who are ranked number 20 in the world. Despite Australia's ranking of number 28, our #1 player, former Swedish star Tommy Danielsson, is confident Australia will do well.
I think this will boost, of course, the interest amongst our players, and still another 3 or 4 years to next Olympic Games, and I think we need that time to build up our standard and be able to do quite well in Olympic Games.
Presented Australia in international competition. Anna Gregory reports on a family where sporting excellence is a foregone conclusion.
It's rare these days for the Teppers to spend much time all together as a family. Study and career interests have taken 3 family members in different directions. Home for Merv and Marg Tepper is Murtoa, a small mixed farming district in northwest Victoria. It seems incredible that from this one small town with a population of only 1,000 comes 4 champions in the same sport, and all from the one family. All 4 Tepper children hold state and national table tennis titles and have represented Australia on the international circuit. Glenn, at 26, is the eldest of the 4 Teppers and is a physical education teacher. He's been playing for 18 years and holds over 100 titles. The most aggressive player in the family is Kerri. At only 20, she holds numerous awards and titles, including Australia's top-ranking female player. Jan, at 19, has her future planned as a physiotherapist. She represented Australia in the Asian Junior Championships last year and in the Commonwealth and World Championships in 1985. Ross is in Year 11 and at 16 is shaping up to be one of Australia's most promising players. He also holds an array of titles and is the current Victorian country champion. The main secret of their success is their coach, confidant and father, Merv. And it all began on a holiday almost 20 years ago.
We were on a holiday to Queenscliff, and it rained for about 2 weeks in the middle of summer, and we sort of spent the 2 weeks in the games room, and Glenn was only about 8 at the time, and the time we got home he could keep the ball going for about 200 times over the net. And when we got home, he talked me into making a table, and just sort of progressed from there. Kerri is probably the most competitive in the family. She's, I shouldn't say it, she's got possibly an arrogant streak which she hates losing, and whereas Jan is super fast. She's got a lot of things going for her. The same with Ross and Glenn. They both got different attributes, but they're all potential to be in a champion.
Well, I'd like to see them achieve whatever they would like to achieve. You know, I'm with them all the way in whatever they would like.
Well, I know they've got high ambitions representing Australia at the Olympic Games.
Do you have a favourite routine or stroke? Not really. It's sort of, table tennis is a combination of a lot of different strokes. It's nice to finish off the rallies with a smash though. But with the Olympics coming up, I'm sort of putting table tennis first at the moment. It's been quite difficult as I'm currently injured with tendinitis.
Dad's helped us a lot. He's been a very good coach, and we've had the lucky breaks, I guess, that makes a difference between making it and not making it.
We've just started a new academy where there's training practically every night, so it's pretty heavy. You make time, just cut down on social life.
It was quite hard because I was expected to do well, so that made it a bit added pressure. I mean, everyone's have their roles at times, but apart from that, we get on quite well.
Australian table tennis received great publicity when a team from here toured China for a series of matches. But since the days of the ping-pong diplomacy, as it was called, the indoor tabletop version of tennis hasn't featured in too many headlines. Australia's best under-21 player, Eddie Kasser, is hoping to change all that, but to do so, he'll also have to go overseas. With the help of a $10,000 sports scholarship grant from the ANZ Bank, Eddie is going to tour Sweden to try and improve his world ranking. Adrian Swift spent some time watching Eddie train as he prepared for an overseas tour that may bring a little of the fame that the players of the court version of the game enjoy.
Tennis, it's a big sport. Big names, big crowds, and most of all, big money. But bring down the scale of the game a bit and the names, crowds and money don't diminish, they disappear completely. Name a good young up-and-coming tennis player and you might think of Wally Masur or Pat Cash. The equivalent in table tennis is Eddie Kasser, and if he's sexy, no one except a few close friends are ever going to know about it.
Well, it's hard to be motivated through table tennis because there's no money in it, and I just do it when I feel I want to do something, you know, to win a tournament or win an Australian. I put in as much as I want, you know, considering what I want to get out of it.
People talk of the discipline of tennis players, where the payoff for practice, even for middle-ranked contenders, is a living beyond the dreams of most people. Consider the table tennis players, like 18-year-old Eddie and his playing partner, Victorian champion Rodney Carlyle, can spend at least as much time on their own miniature court.
Do you ever regret that not embarking on a higher profile sport or more high profile sport earlier in your career?
Yeah, I do now. Between the ages of 18 and 24, then it didn't worry me that much because I enjoyed playing so much. But now that I'm 25, 26 and see players like, you know, Pat Cash and those guys earning big money, then yeah, I regret it in a way.
So why do they do it? Hitting a small white ball backwards and forwards across the table. It's not as though you get a lot of exercise or a stint out in the sun.
Initially, I picked it up just to have a hobby, and ever since I've been playing it. I think through any sport, over a period of time, you develop a love for it because you learn a lot through it, and the more you play it, the more you learn, and this sort of becomes part of you.
Unlike tennis, Australia has never been a world power in the table-based game. You might think the centre of the sport would be in China, and while literally millions follow the game there, the big time as far as Australians are concerned is Europe. No Australian has ever cracked it over there, but if we have a chance to make it in the big time, it's going to come with Eddie.
Eddie's probably about he'd be number one under 21 in Australia at the moment, and probably one of the few players that's got a lot of promise around at the moment.
A lot of promise. How much promise do you think?
I'd say if he went overseas within the next couple of years, he'd have a chance of getting a world ranking.
Well, I've had the scholarship from the ANZ Bank, and I'm using that to go overseas to Sweden. Sweden's the second best country in the world, and I'm hoping to come back and become number one in Australia and follow through to have a world ranking.
That incentive for Australian table tennis players to achieve on a world level was given a major boost this year when it was announced that the sport would be included in the Olympic Games in Seoul in 1988. It's meant that with the help of corporate sponsorship and the government, table tennis authorities in Victoria have been able to set up a table tennis academy based in Melbourne that will particularly help players like Eddie.
The benefit from Eddie's point of view is that he will have access to all of his coaching expertise that he otherwise wouldn't have. He'll have access to sports science facilities that he otherwise wouldn't be able to be involved with. He'll be able to train. He'll be able to have international competition that he would otherwise miss out on.
What do you think makes a good table tennis player?
To be able to react instinctively and to have a very high concentration, just like any other sport, and to be very fast.
Reflexes seem like an important part of it. To watch you playing it, it seems as though reflex is almost all of it.
Well, almost all of it, yeah. It's, when you stop and you start thinking of, you know, your movement and everything becomes forced, and you have to do it fluently, and that's when you feel you're playing really well.
But no matter what level of skill it demands, table tennis is still considered by most to be a garage or rumpus room-bound recreation, not a serious sport like its big brother, and that's something Eddie could change.
By Eddie being successful, that'll have a promotional benefit for table tennis in Australia. If he's successful at international level and becomes a winner, then the benefit for table tennis in Australia is enormous, particularly as now it's an Olympic sport. We're going to the Seoul Olympics, so that'll be a big boost for us. Now, if Eddie could be that player, or even if he could be the player in 1992, then that will have a big benefit for us.
Eddie Kasser, the best under-21 Australian table tennis player, and with a bit of luck, that ANZ scholarship might just get him to the Seoul Olympics.
Yeah, it's improving. He'll be Australia's #1 player before he's a teenager. Tonight, the youngster, who's already ranked #8 in Australia, will contest the finals of the National Junior Championships.
At the tender age of 11, Trevor Brown already has his sights set on the Olympics in the year 2000. At this year's Table Tennis Championships, he's the youngest member ever to play in a final. And that in itself is something of an advantage.
Well, usually they think that they can beat me pretty easy, so it's pretty good.
Can they?
Scare. Oh, some of them.
Trevor's coach, an international star himself, thinks little Trevor is 1 in a million.
And I saw this guy when he started play some pennant or tournament. He was very small. I just took him and said, you can be very good if you will do serious job.
Table tennis, like gymnastics, has a very short professional life. You are a has-been by the age of 25. So Trevor is confident he has at least a good 14 years left before...
Legal blues. As Jeff Hutchinson reports, it's what's going on the bats that's getting up people's noses.
When I was growing up, table tennis was a game played mainly by young Christians at youth clubs on Friday nights. I thought they were pretty daggy, really. They wore socks and sandals and listened to Cat Stevens records and played these gentle, winning isn't important games of ping pong. But that was then. Today, winning is so important to some competitors, they're playing dangerous games with their own health.
But unfortunately, we have kids as young as 11 and 12 using it in their matches because they think they can't win without it.
Table tennis has always been a fast game, a marvel of hand-eye coordination and dynamic reflex. Indeed, you probably wouldn't have noticed that in recent years it's got even quicker. Why? Well, primarily because of this. Australian #1 and dual Olympian Kerri Tepper is gluing up her bat. Simply by applying this potent solvent to the rubber, she's improving her game.
You can gain 60% more power and spin by using the glue. It actually stretches the rubber, which means you're getting a lot more impact off the bat there. It's probably harming table tennis in that it's making table tennis a faster sport, and for spectators to watch it and for it to be picked up on television, the faster it is, the more difficult it is for people to watch.
Whether gluing up is harming the game is a secondary issue here. Expert medical opinion says it's harming the players.
A young junior in South Australia who obviously didn't know the dangers of this glue, hadn't tightened the cap on it and left it by his bed, and the next morning he was in a coma, and they had to get him to hospital to revive him.
How many of you have glued up bats yourselves? Ever had any problems?
Never. I use a respirator.
It's purely in the lap of the gods, how and when kids use them, because there's no warning, there's no indication of the dangers.
Bob Pappalardo and Keith Mundy are members of a committee investigating those dangers. The report they're about to send the Australian Table Tennis Association is full of dire warnings.
The problems with this glue is inadequate warning and the fact that kids who should be nowhere near it are allowed to buy it because everybody else is. And the dangers of it just haven't been publicised. The juniors that actually use it have been known to spread it with their fingers, and that's definitely a no-no because the materials just go straight through the fatty tissue and into the bloodstream.
These glues contain the harmful solvent trichloroethylene, known over prolonged exposure to cause serious liver damage. The International Table Tennis Federation has now banned them. So far in Australia, only the Victorian Association has followed. The glues are cheap and very, very nasty, and a kid can buy them anywhere. So is it conceivable that Australia is going to become some kind of dumping ground for these glues with dangerous solvents?
Well, I spoke to the chairman of the ITTF Rules Committee, and he said exactly that. And he asked me to fax labels from glues that were recently landed in Australia, and I faxed him the label, and he said, yeah, these glues are definitely illegal, and they contain very high concentrations of the trichloroethylene.
Now, the situation with the manufacturers, if I'm a company that makes these things, I'm obviously very happy with the glues that have been used because a lot of rubbers are ruined over a period of time. Probably the bat itself gets ruined. Is that how it's been?
Well, in 1991, the ITTF recommended that all these dangerous solvents should be taken out of the glues and left it for the manufacturers to control. As of 1993, nobody had complied.
There's not too much argument that young players need to be protected, but for semi-professional international competitors like Australian champion Dennis Makaling, the dilemma is profound.
It's probably harmful, but it hasn't affected me at the moment. I've been using it the last 4 years. If most of my rivals will be using these glues, I'll be doing the same too, because like I said, whoever's using glue has an advantage over someone who's not using glue, because they hit the ball faster and with more power, so I think I'll do the same.
Kerri Tepper doesn't share that view.
And it's something like smoking where the effects are quite long-term. So if you know if you stand in front of a car you're going to be run over, you're not going to do it. But if you smoke or if you use the glue over a long period of time, it might be 5 or 10 years before you see the signs. And I'm almost willing to bet that within the next 10 years, we're going to find my generation of players all over the world who are going to start having cancer problems.
Do you know of competitors who've used this glue who've suffered health problems because of it, dizziness or nausea?
Well, I heard that, well, I actually know that one New Zealand player who used to live here in Australia, he was selling his own brand of bats and gear, etc. And he'd spend every day probably in a small closed room, he probably wasn't opening the windows, and he'd be gluing up with all these glues. He'll be gluing up bats and rubbers, and then in the long term, I think he was getting fairly sick all the time, probably vomiting, I think, getting a lot of headaches. And then I heard another...
During matches?
Yeah, I think it affected him in matches too.
That bat was glued up with illegal glue about 24 hours ago, so we're going to see whether it tests positive.
The colour change is that yellow column on the tube going from yellow to red. Whoops. As you can see, that's a real beauty. That's gone right off the scale at over 150 parts per million.
A shortage of testing equipment remains a major problem. Although players caught using illegal glues can face a 3-month suspension, it's not known how much testing will go on in next month's World Championships. Dennis Makaling has flown out early to talk to the Europeans to decide whether to glue or not to glue. So this social friendly game, the one I remembered being played by dags in socks and sandals, has joined the big time, full of scandals, cover-ups and athletes prepared to take some significant risks. What a pity. Is it because you're 22 that you look at this issue and think, I'm all right, I've been using this thing for 6 years and it's not going to be a problem for me?
Probably, and probably also that because it hasn't affected me at all at the moment. Once I find some symptoms of it being harmful, and I'll probably stop using it.
Table tennis, dangerous.
Welcome back. The best table tennis players in our part of the world are competing in Melbourne over the next 4 days, beginning tonight, in the Oceania Championships. And on today's show, Australia's #1 female player, Kerri Tepper, and the men's defending champion from New Zealand, Peter Jackson. Kerri and Peter, welcome. Very interesting. In the world of table tennis, of course, the best female players come from China, yet the best men's players, they appear to come from Europe, particularly Sweden. Is it that's got pretty much a stranglehold on the game?
Sweden won the men's team events at the last World Championships, and they've won the last 3 times at the World Championships.
Right. Here in Australia, Kerri, a big sport?
It's beginning to improve in profile now that we're an Olympic sport. Like a lot of minority sports, we do struggle for the profile, but it's a very high participation sport, and now we're looking at getting more players involved on a competitive level, so it is improving.
You wouldn't have had much choice, would you, as to whether you're going to be a player or not, because it's very much a family affair, isn't it?
That's right, not much choice at all when you've got your dad propping you up on a table from age 4. My brother has also gone through and represented Australia, and my following brother and sister, so it's really a family affair there.
It's such a fast game, obviously. Apart from the physical ability, you've got to keep the brain in good mode too, eh?
That's right. It's a very, people have called it, you know, the tactical chess game of ball sports, and it really is very, very tactical and requires a lot of hand-eye coordination, and it's very skillful.
It's a great game. What about the now that it's in the Olympic Games, as you say, there's every chance that it's going to grow and grow. Can it get to the stage where it can be very much an audience sport and maybe big money come into it?
We are looking at that now and trying to improve that in Australia and make it more like the football, where the spectators feel that they're a part of it. When we play the World Championships and Olympic Championships, it's just incredible. You know, you've got people with whistles and drums and throwing streamers, and everyone's right into it. You've
Is that good for you? Do you feel good for that?
Terrific, terrific. They're quiet during the point and then they're going berserk between points. So that's the type of atmosphere that we want to get going here.
Sure.
So that people feel that they're part of it, and that's what's going to draw people into it, I think.
What about you, Peter? How did you get into the sport?
From my family as well. My father was New Zealand champion several times. My mother has been veteran champion in New Zealand, and I'm the youngest of 3 brothers, and both my brothers played table tennis before me.
Is there much sponsorship, said he, asking the question as I see various badges, a lot of sponsorship and good sponsorship in the sport, Kerri?
In Australia, not so much from commercial companies, etc. Most of the top players, say the top 10 men and women, are sponsored by table tennis equipment companies, Butterfly, as we wear.
Right.
And
that's Butterfly,
plug
isn't
there.
it? Yeah, why not?
We're getting more and more endorsements now, once again, through the Olympic movement, and I've now become executive director, so now it's my job to go out and try to find more sponsorship and get more media coverage and consequently increase participation. It's really a cycle.
Because you're so young and because we're now into the Olympic sports, there's every chance you could certainly take part in the next 2 Olympic Games at least, couldn't you?
I'm definitely looking at Atlanta. I'd like to make it 3.
Yep.
After that, we'll see how we're going. There's a young girl coming up who's edging on my toes now, so...
What was Barcelona like?
Oh, wonderful. Really fantastic experience, and of course the Australians did so well, which is a spin-off which gives us more publicity as well, so it was a fantastic feeling over there.
And you wouldn't go beyond Atlanta?
I'm letting it go. I'll keep that as my goal for the moment, and then hopefully, if I'm still fit and the back and neck will hold out, then I'll look towards the next one.
Is age any barrier, Peter, in this sport?
It is, to a certain extent. There's not a lot of top players in the world who are over 30 years old. There is a few, though. So if people want to go playing into their 30s, it is possible.
Well, it's a terrific opportunity for us to see in the next 4 days the guys here in action, the Oceania Championships. You play tonight, don't you?
Yes.
You don't play until tomorrow, Friday,
No.
do you? No. Well, good luck to both of you. Thanks for coming in this morning, and here's to the next 4 days for both of you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks a lot, Kerri. Thank you, Peter.
This Hot Shots is Trevor Brown. Not your everyday young sportsman. There was a time when doctors wondered if he'd ever hold a table tennis bat again.
Well, at the end of grade 6, when I was about 11, I think, had a brain hemorrhage, and it was a 7-hour operation. I got quite sick, but I recovered fully. And at the start of the operation, I didn't really know, how I was going to recover, whether I'd have full use of my body, things like that. But I fully recovered, so that was good. I could continue playing table tennis.
I wanted you. 14-year-old Trevor not only recovered, he's now the Oceania singles and doubles champion, making him one of the brightest young prospects in world table tennis. It was the thought of winning these tournaments that kept Trevor going when he was sick in hospital.
Table tennis helped me to get back because when I was ill, I was, getting worse, not playing too well, and all the kids who I was previously beating, passed me and beat me pretty easy. And it was sort of an ambition of mine to get back, start playing well and beating these kids once again. Yes, that was good to spur me on.
To understand Trevor's love for the game, you have to go back to a time when he couldn't even see over the table.
Oh, well, I started one day when my grandparents brought a table over to our house, put it in the rumpus room. I was about 4 years old, started hitting on a chair, stood on a chair because I couldn't see over the table. All my family played, they were all right, and just got started from there. Played a bit of competition, had a bit of coaching.
Well, I'd have to say that he is easy to coach. He's a very receptive sort of player and takes in ideas and also thinks a lot about table tennis, so it is pretty easy to coach him.
Alois Rosario is the coach in charge of Trevor's career.
Well, his potential's obviously there to be explored. He's proved himself in the junior ranks, winning the under-15 and under-17 Australian titles, obviously. And I think, in the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to find out exactly how good Trevor can be.
It's my life, take it or leave it, set me free. What's that crap? I know it all. I got my own life, you got your own life.
Sometimes I get sick of the pressures, but it's always a relief when I play. It's something different, not different, but something I enjoy doing, and it gets my mind off things like school and other pressures.
It's my life. Do you understand? I live the way I want to live.
Now, most of you hotshots have probably come across table tennis before. The game was developed in the 19th century, and by the early 1900s was popular throughout Europe, Japan, China and Korea. It's said to be the fastest ball game in the world, and besides needing lightning-fast reflexes, you need to be a good sport as well.
There's a certain amount of luck in the game. Unlike tennis, you get a lot of balls that hit the edge and hit the net and dribble over. That's basically just luck. And generally, you put up your hand and say sorry for that. And if you don't, so class is a bit arrogant.
One of the toughest things for Trevor is combining table tennis and schoolwork.
It's difficult because you get tired a lot. You have to manage your time really well. Get a chart going or something, plan out your time, homework time, and really apply yourself. make it good quality homework time, good quality practice time. So there's not a lot of time to spare.
And there's not likely to be much spare time for quite a while. You see, Trevor wants to make it to the World Championships and even the year 2000 Olympics. And that means practice, practice, and a lot more practice.
Of course, I'd love to become world champion. It'd be really good.
Quiz time, hot shot. Table tennis in Australia has embraced a national league for 3 seasons. This year's grand final saw the Sydney Smashers take on defending champions Geelong.
The league works on the European League system. Home and away played over 7 best-of-3 matches, 4 men's singles, a women's singles, mixed doubles and men's doubles. With table tennis an Olympic sport and Australia to host the Games in 6 years' time, current players see the league as vital.
Well, it's a good breeding ground for younger players to come into the competition, and also Australia being such a big country, we don't get to play each other, you know, basically until the national championships or something. So in that way, it gives everyone a chance to play each other.
And how do you think the standard is in men's table tennis in Australia these days?
It's improving, definitely on the improve. I think we've still got a lot of work to do to get up to a world level, but I think we're gradually getting there.
Sydney Smashers in white were expected to grab the early lead in the final. 24-year-old Dennis Makaling had, after all, never been beaten by Geelong's Raf Pranobis. The left-handed Geelong youngster, though, threw caution to the wind. The number 1 ranked Victorian junior took the opening game 21-17. Makaling, an Australian team member, hit back in game 2. The exciting decider went to Pranobis 21-19, a surprise from which Sydney would struggle to recover.
It just backfired on us, and Pranobis played very, very well. They played with nothing to lose, had never beaten him, and just went for his shots, and he won convincingly towards the end, and Dennis just couldn't pick it up, and we're just a bit unlucky. It was a bad start.
With regular number 1 Brett Clark training in Poland, Jamie Perry took the Geelong top spot for the second singles showdown. The Australian doubles champion found himself in against an Australian junior champion and fellow national representative Jenna Raba. This turned out to be the tightest match of the final, both players' attacking skills to the fore. Game 1, 26-24 to Perry. Then 2 great games for Sydney, Raba snatching them 22-20 and 21-19. One match each, and the Smashers back in the hunt, especially when Stella Zhou shocked the country's leading female Kerri Tepper in game 1 of their singles. 27-year-old Tepper, Australia's top-ranked player and a 2-time Olympian, upped the tempo for Geelong in games 2 and 3. Tepper's high toss serve and overall aggression gave the defending champions a big lift. Geelong's dominance continued into the men's doubles. Jamie Perry and Raf Pranobis having the measure of Jenna Raba and a double specialist, 5-time national champion Gary Harville. The doubles produced some outstanding rallies. At 3-1 in the best-of-7 final, Geelong looked home. But Harble and Stella Zhou had other thoughts in a thrilling mixed doubles. Their 21-12 win in the first game gave the Smashers renewed hope. But Geelong coach Alex Jakubczak rallied his team for the kill, and Kerri and Tepper didn't let him down. 4 matches to 1, a fair reflection of the current preeminence of Australia's best organised table tennis team.
Good luck to them. They've got a strong team and we have to really raise our efforts to win next time.
It was a really gutsy effort. We came into the finals just trying to take it one match at a time, as on paper we weren't expected to win, so we were absolutely wrapped.
That's 3 in a row for Geelong. Why so strong?
I think we have a very good team feel, and I mean the team really pulls together and works for each other and works together very, very hard, and I think it gets out there and it makes a big difference.
Sporting novice to the stature of elite junior talent can be a tough one. Natural ability carries the gifted athlete part of the way. After that, it is a question of discipline and dedication. Sport is littered with the stories of budding champions who, for one reason or another, didn't make the final step. Some fall short on ultimate ability. Others simply change their minds. Mary Guerin filed this case study on a collection of kids who decided to step off the train.
Sort of like a very dedicated lifestyle, and it was good for me to have that when I was a child. It shapes you for later life, how to sort of keep on track with things and work hard, and it teaches you a lot. Like, I'm so glad that I did elite sport when I was young. I don't regret that at all.
Early days, nightmarish routines. Even 6 years ago, tiny Kelly Stevenson showed the ruthless determination that can shock and even disturb the public in one so young. Yet these champions understand, perhaps better than anyone, that their dreams are the nation's dreams. Their success is our glory, and their failures, oh well, who thinks about the failures?
We have many junior champions, but we only have very few Olympic champions and world record holders. And we've identified in Australia so many juniors. What happens to them when they don't succeed? And the question then comes to mind, who's going to pick up the pieces if they fall?
And most do fall. Across all sports, the country's most promising juniors drop out at an alarming rate.
Well, they get enormous expectations of their capabilities to perform at senior level. And there's a big jump between doing well in your age group and doing well in open competition.
I want to go to the 1996 Olympic Games.
And do you think you'll make it there?
If I keep working hard, I will.
Kelly Stevenson kept working hard, but she won't make it to those games next year. Soon after this competition, where she beat Australia's present top gymnast, Joanna Hughes, she swapped gymnastics for diving and became junior world champion in 1993. But after a few more months training with the AIS, she came up for breath and took some time off.
I did suffer from an injury with my back, so I needed time off anyway. Year 12 is really important, and those two were two major factors for me taking time off. But also, after I'd trained at the Institute, I wanted to reassess how serious I was about it. And there are a lot of other things that I want to do with my life too. Only for myself, I thought if I could achieve that, then I have to go on, and keep achieving, really.
The winner is Cindy.
The pressure is on to identify Australia's Olympic athletes towards 2000. But when do the nation's dreams start ruining the dreams of its young athletes?
But just because they are identified at an early age doesn't necessarily mean they are going to make it through. The chances are, 1,000,000 to 1.
We have a program in Australia called the Sports Search program at the moment, which is aimed at finding athletes who will perhaps represent Australia in 2000. I would say at this stage in 1995, 5 years off, it's a bit late to be finding athletes and putting them into a sport and expecting them in 5 years' time to be at the top of that sport. The athletes who are going to be successful in Sydney are most likely in the sport and are doing very well at the junior level.
The world record is 4:21.2. And Shea Gould is going to break that. There is no doubt at all. Shea Gould comes back in the most amazing fashion.
Australians could do well to remember the country's most famous junior dropout. At 15, Shane Gould held every swimming record from 100 metres to 1500, until the media and the public swamped her. She retired at 16.
The value that was being placed on me was that you are a sporting hero. You are even a marketable product, you know. And if you are not a marketable product or not a sporting hero, you are nothing.
Paradoxically, some potential world beaters are being lost because of lack of pressure. Australian table tennis champ Trevor Brown is on the verge of pushing into the senior ranks, but has to weigh up the rewards of a minor sport for the real benefits of full-time education.
In Australia at the moment, there's no future in table tennis with money-wise, so you've got to put all your effort into school to have a good future.
Me, myself, I gave up in year 12 to do my HSC as it was at that time, and then took the year off, came back and actually won the Australian senior title that following year. I think nowadays that's unrealistic, and kids are faced with the pressure of if they give up for a year, they'll never catch up again.
For any young sportsperson who couldn't quite make the grade, missed opportunities are relived and regretted every Wimbledon, every grand final, every Olympic Games.
At this particular point in time, I guess what we have is the post-Olympic blues for our elite athletes. That is still not an issue that's being addressed fully enough.
I think that if I go back, it'll be back to being very serious. I've got to set my goals towards the Olympics. In a way, sometimes I wish that I could go back to when I just begun and when it was just a lot of fun. But if it's what you really want to do, it'll be fun anyway.
Good luck to those kids who decided their destiny.
It passes by most Australians, but table tennis is one of the giants of world sport. It's a familiar story for our few top players who go overseas for competition, but in Europe and Asia, the game is played by tens of millions. Coming off a small player base and with limited funds, Australian table tennis has some lofty ambitions.
The quality of player at last week's National League final deserved more than a modest crowd, and perhaps one day the fledgling competition will get it. Victorian clubs dominate at the moment. Geelong meeting Croydon to decide the title. Mark Smythe and Jamie Perry playing out a terrific three-game opening match. These days the rallies are pretty short. More than half a dozen times across the net is unusual, and that's largely a result of what's being done to the bats.
What a lot of the attacking players are using, and it's very crafty, they rip the sheet of rubber off their blade and they put 2 or 3 layers of glue which expands the rubber, because the rubber being 100% pure rubber, the glue expands the sheet, which gives you 80% more power than when you hit normally.
Mark and Jamie are typical of our young players who know that if they're going to make a career in the sport, it has to take them elsewhere.
I hope it lands in Europe. I'm off to Europe in a couple of weeks to play in a club in Belgium. It's very hard to get money within Australia, and again we train hard, but there's only a small group of players within Australia. We're in Europe, there's a whole, it just opens the world to us all, and the money's also there, so we can pick up, try and pick up some dollars there too.
Smythe lost to Kerri, but Croydon have a not-so-secret weapon in Zhou Lei, recently arrived from China and possibly here to stay. Australia's #1 woman, Kerri Tepper, gave her a great run, taking her to 3 games. But Lei's bat-flipping technique highlights the sport's other international dilemma, the combination bat.
Yeah, one side's got long pimple rubber, the other side's got the reverse sponge, and they twiddle the bat in such a way that you have to be so quick to pick it that you lose your advantage if you haven't picked it early.
Officials are addressing the sport's technical problems to make it more spectator-friendly. It should mean longer rallies, and players will have to work even harder on their fitness.
Our season runs through the winter months, and during the off-season, which is during the summer, we do a lot of jogging, a lot of running, a lot of heavy weight work to try and build up our legs. Not too much in the upper body stuff, but more so just the running and trying to strengthen up the legs and a bit of endurance.
We may not have China's 20 million registered players, but our best are determined to join the elite.
And Croydon, by the way, took the final 4-3 to win their first National League title.
Still in Melbourne, the Australian Table Tennis Championships get underway this week. The tournament will be used as a selection criteria for this country's Olympic Games team.
After Sydney's successful bid for the year 2000, all Olympic sports have benefited from an increase in funding, and table tennis is no exception. Australia has now 2 full-time coaches and has invited teams from Russia, Slovakia and Japan to compete at this week's championship.
In the past, Australia hasn't been viewed as a table tennis nation so much, but we're certainly gaining more and more respect with the new program we've got initiated, and we hope to gain even more respect with bigger results in the near future.
In Europe, table tennis is a professional sport, with some elite players earning in excess of $500,000. Australia's Jamie Perry has spent the last 5 years based in Sweden fine-tuning his skills, and now has landed a contract to play in the Belgium League. His plan one day is to crack the German Bundesliga, which is regarded as the best in the world. Perry knows that to succeed on the international circuit, there's more to it than just hitting a ball.
The service is very important because it can set you up for your attack in the game, and the number of elements with the serve, there's the spin of course, and the placement of course on the table, as well as you can also hide with your body movements the serve as well, so it all happens in a split second, so it's very difficult.
Simon Pajaka, SBS Sport.
Sports World, we'll be back with more in just a moment. Big sport that is starting to gain momentum here in Australia under the watchful eye of their Chinese coach Langley. Four of our youngest players have been selected to compete in Atlanta, including 16-year-old Shirley Zhou, who has the added bonus of having Dad as the head coach. Kim Sporton reports.
Any athlete will tell you that getting on well with your coach is all important. And young Shirley Zhou, set for her first ever Olympics, says having Dad as the national table tennis coach has its advantages.
It's different, it's weird kind of thing. I mean, when I'm here, he's like a coach to me. You know, whatever he says I have to do, and I can't argue with him. But then when I get home, it's a totally different story, you know. He's a dad again.
Shirley was selected after former Australian champion Kerri Tepper was injured at the recent Olympic qualifying tournament. Kerri, a veteran who has competed at the Seoul and Barcelona Olympics, says the sport's low profile in Australia is in stark contrast to their European and Asian counterparts.
In Europe, you can have players on $500,000 for a season in Germany. It's huge. Waldner, the guy that won the Olympic gold medal in Barcelona, that medal was worth to him over $5 million US.
Getting selected earlier than you expected would have been something of a surprise. How have you coped with it?
I don't really know. I mean, as soon as I won it, I was just sitting on my bench, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm shaking up and down. You know, I didn't really know what to think. But slowly I'm settling down, and I'm going back to training and so on.
This determined teenager has quickly regained her composure. She spends a minimum of 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, training on court.
What makes a good player?
I would say really strong mental, have really good physical standards, you know, have to be really quick around court, high endurance, very powerful.
To compete against the Asian countries like China, who made a clean sweep, winning all 7 events at last year's world titles, running and weight programs are essential.
So, like, we tend to move, because it's such like a small thing, you know, moving around, but it's really fast and speed, so people don't realise we have to do a lot of work, but we do.
Langley Zhou sees Atlanta as crucial experience for teenagers Shirley and Stella Zhou. Australian champion Paul Langley is the veteran of the team, aged 24, and there's also 21-year-old Russell Lavale.
Do you think by the year 2000 we might win some medals in the table tennis?
Yeah, I'm very confident. I think we got a chance.
God, they hit it a bit different, Kim, than we do in the back garage, isn't it?
Do they what? Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? These minority sports, they do cop a bit of flack, but when you go out and see just the amount of dedication and hard work that people like Shirley are putting into table tennis, of all things, I was amazed. I couldn't believe how physical it is.
Well, a lot of people think it's a recreation sport, but if you go to the Asian countries, it really is. It's a great spectator sport.
It's huge over there. I think China had a clean sweep of the medals in the world titles in '95, so the Australians probably not in with a huge chance. They're very young, very inexperienced, but this will be a terrific experience for them, and like Langley.
At 17, Shirley Zhou will be the baby of the Australian Olympic team heading to Atlanta. It's a dream come true for Shirley, who beat another Chinese-born player, Stella Zhou, for the right to represent Australia in the singles draw.
It's a bit of a dream come true kind of thing. I mean, my main goal was to go to year 2000.
Shirley, who's the current Australian junior champion, combines her high school studies with intensive training and competition. For the teenager, it's a tough assignment.
Yeah, you can say that. You know, right now I'm doing correspondence through Wesley College, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, I have to do a lot of homework at night and training during the day, so I'm just everywhere, but, you know, I can manage.
Australia's men's singles player is South Australian Paul Langley. The 24-year-old is the current national champion, but despite having wins over top 50 players and pushing many of the world's top 10, Langley says a medal in Atlanta is not a realistic aim.
1996 at the Olympics is basically going to be a big stepping stone for Sydney 2000. But sort of realistically, we can go over there expecting to beat the top of beat the top world-class players.
Langley, doubles partner Russell Lavale and Mark Smythe train twice a day, 5 to 6 days a week. A solid aerobic fitness base is essential for longevity in the sport.
Generally, you know, we have to do a lot of, during the off-season, a lot of running to sort of build that up, and then during the season it's just a lot of maintenance work. So for table tennis players in general, we have to be very quick around the court, sort of our power has to be very strong as well. So, and table tennis tournaments, you know, they do last for quite a while, and to have the mental capacity to last you through that is definitely one of the most challenging parts of the sport.
Well-known sports psychologist Noel Blundell works with the Australian team. Day-to-day, though, the fine-tuning is done by head coach Zhou.
You go back this left side.
Zhou is a household name in China, winning a team's world championship in 1965, as well as reaching a career-high ranking of 3 in the world.
He's definitely brought over a lot more professionalism into the sport. Sort of our training loads have definitely increased a lot more than perhaps they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think in general it's a lot more professionalism involved in it, and you know, sort of hopefully the results of his 10 years' work will show through.
While their main aim is to do their best for their country at Atlanta, the Olympics will also provide the Australians with a platform to attract interest from professional teams in Europe, where highly ranked players can earn 6-figure sums.
Could be looking at going over to Holland at the end of this year to play for a club, so it's just one stepping stone after another. I've been to Spain and Germany now, so it's just a matter of building up from there.
Table tennis has only been a medal sport at the Olympics since the Seoul Games in 1988, and while the Australians are not expected to figure in the placings in Atlanta, the foundations will be set for the year 2000 in Sydney. David Bashir, SBS Sport.
The National League has been convincingly won this year by Victoria's Croydon Conquerors. Croydon, in the purple shirts, boasted 3 Olympians. A little too good for Adelaide Academy, 4 rubbers to 0. The toughest bout featured former world number 22, Engelbert Huging, downed by the Conquerors' rising star, Russell Lavale, 23-21. 22-20. Lavale then teamed with fellow Olympian Mark Smythe to take the men's doubles in straight sets to win the National League and the player of the series.
It was a long haul over 6 months or so, which the season goes for. So I played fairly consistently and I'm very happy to be undefeated.
Which is what these guys are at. These guys play, this is Trevor Brown, is 3-time Australian junior champion and the Oceanic doubles champion. Welcome to 11am. Coach Warren, the Director of National Coaching, Warren Gray. Welcome both to 11am.
Thank you. Hi.
Now, it gets a bit serious at your level, doesn't it?
150 kilometres an hour?
It does, and the ball spins at about 80 revolutions per second, so it's pretty technical stuff.
Now, because when we watch it on the telly, right, it doesn't, I mean, we know it's hard, but it doesn't look that hard. How did you go from being like us, when just kid players, to you know, a potential Olympian?
Well, I started practicing about 3 or 4 times a week when I was 10 or 11, and then got invited into the National Academy squad, and 2 years ago began practicing full-time, which is about 6 to 8 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Wow.
So it's a pretty full-time stuff.
Now, you're looking forward to the Olympics, aren't you? This is where you're headed, you're hoping?
Yeah, well, that's my goal at the moment. We have Olympic qualifications in between June and September '99, and that will qualify us for the Olympics in 2000, so that's where our main goal is focused on at the moment.
And Australia's had teams, since 1988 table tennis has been in the Games, is that right? Since Seoul, yeah.
Seoul 88 was the first time table tennis was in the Olympics. And yeah, we've had representatives ever since then.
And it also got you through a pretty difficult time when you were younger, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I was 11 years old, I was diagnosed with a brain hemorrhage, and I was forced to have a pretty severe operation, and I came through that. And table tennis helped me to get back on my feet and really concentrate on getting on with life.
And just getting the motor actions happening? That's what it did, just because it made you focus so hard?
Yeah, definitely. And table tennis is a very mental game, and definitely the mental strength that you need in table tennis helped me through the operation and really helped me focus.
All right, well, let's
Warren,
see you show off.
I want to know, Warren, too, while you're showing off, tell me how good Australia is compared to the world class, you know, the world level of table tennis.
Australia at the moment, approximately 30 in the world.
Right.
We've been as high as 12. We've got a new national program happening now with our Olympians, and they're certainly planning towards medaling in Sydney.
This is like
now look at this.
Talking to someone while they're on a computer.
Just go for it, boys. Just show us how fast you. Just show us how good you are.
You're the coach. Show me just a couple of moves. Show me the.
We need to see those serves.
The big serve where you toss it up.
The big serve, the high tosser.
Yeah. What's that about?
Supposedly it gives you more speed when you throw it up, but I think it's more a distracting element for the opponent. But Trevor can do this. He's quite good at this one.
No.
And gives you more friction on the way down, more speed on the serve.
Okay, so what? So fling one away.
Oh,
now, see now, Warren, you're a coach. Now my bat is straight. You can see my bat. What happened with that? Why did it go over there?
With the degree of spin that Trevor's actually put on it, you would need to really be aiming
that way,
over that way, the ball to go back to Anne so that she could return it.
Why is it so?
Unbelievable.
Well, Trevor might do that. Now you aim a little bit that way.
Okay,
we'll see if
I'll
we
aim
can
it
get
that
it
way.
back to Anne.
Rightio.
And
it nearly did.
It went straight. Yes, that's the way.
That would have been over.
Right. Well, let's have a game.
All right.
Doubles, alternate shots. We'll have a break. We've got more of 11 AM coming up after this.
And we wish you well, Trevor. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck. We'd like to see you in the Australian team. You get him
cheering you on.
You're the coach. Rightio.
Ready.
More of 11 AM after this. That's one to us.
Oh, me.
Oh, hey, you're pretty good, Paul. Oh! Oh!
At the Australian Open Championships, Sally-Anne Tuckett caught up with the man many believe to be the greatest player ever, and an Australian hopeful with everything in front of her.
You are about to witness a battle of speed, wits and a lifetime of training.
This is the Australian Open Table Tennis Championships, where athletes from all over the world have come to play a game of nerves and split-second decisions. And be warned, these competitors take their ping pong very seriously.
It's very fast, quick and exciting.
I like just fighting against other players.
Even if the lightning speed and precision doesn't impress you, this man probably will. He's Sweden's Jan-Ove Waldner, current men's singles world champion and an internationally recognised ping-pong pinner. He started playing at 6 when he could barely see over the table.
It was maybe a little bit problem in the beginning because the table was quite high for me, so I had to play on smaller tables and like this, but after I grew up a little bit.
At 16 years of age, he won his first Porsche. He's been called the Michael Jordan of table tennis and lives for the shots that skim the table's edge. And believe it or not, this incredible athlete's greatest weapon is a limp wrist. A relaxed wrist camouflages his intentions, giving the opposition less time to react to his unpredictable serves.
For me, it's important that I can play very relaxed when I'm playing, because then I play my best table tennis.
How tense can it get?
Yeah, very.
A lot of the times, you know, say against the Koreans or the Chinese, they just stare at you and they just stare and they don't stop staring and they sort of try and stare you down and you're just like, oh my God.
Shirley Zhou is a 20-year-old Australian who, like the other 140 competitors, is working her way up through the international ranks. Currently, she's number 3 in Australia.
I would say at the top level, 60% is in your mind and 40% is on your technique. You know, when it comes to top 100 in the world, everyone's similar, so, and it just comes down to how strong you are mentally.
The highlight of her career so far would have to be representing Australia at the last Olympics.
The whole atmosphere of the whole thing was something that I've never experienced, and you know, definitely going for 2000 and experiencing it all over again.
But right now, Shirley and Janova both have a more immediate contest on their hands, demanding total concentration. And both are in trouble.
I was very confident I was going to take a 3-love. I didn't concentrate as much and I was just thinking about winning more than my game. And in 4th game, I just got nervous and I was very disappointed, actually.
Even the world champion seems to have momentarily lost his magic touch.
My power was away. I would have had to play very much, but suddenly I feel I have not power in the legs and nothing. It was very tough I could not move so good.
In this match, at least, the power was with Germany's Peter Franz.
It's finals day, and a small group of some of the world's best players are one step closer to $50,000 US in prize money. Now this is when you need those nerves of steel.
It just makes me think I have so much work to do, and I don't think I'm very far from being one of the best players in the world, but still, you know, there's a big difference between around 100 and number ones.
This year, China rules supreme, but all the competitors are already thinking of the next goal, including Janova.
Yeah, I hope to play to Sydney, so I can come back here again. And that's my goal now, to play to 2000, and after I will see what's happened. It depends on my results and motivation to play. If I feel that I cannot win the big titles, then I hope I will stop.
That's the thing about table tennis. It's always unpredictable, and no matter who you are, progression happens just 1 point at a time.
Sally Ann Deckard, and it seems even world champions occasionally learn things the hard way. Janova Waldner has declared, unlike this year, he intends to arrive a week and a half before the championships next year.
Here in Ballarat, we've found a real love match at the Olympic table tennis qualifying tournament. Australia's men's #1 Mark Smythe and girlfriend Stella Zhou are a highly motivated couple shooting for the Games in 2000.
Okay. This couple really do hit it off. Mark Smythe and Stella Zhou live together, practice together and play together. Back and forth, day and night, night and day. You wash the dishes, I cook dinner. And try not to smash anything. This odd couple both played table tennis for Australia in the Atlanta Olympics, and they're hoping to team up again for Sydney 2000. 25-year-old Stella juggles accountancy studies with table tennis practice, while Mark is a full-time coach. The couple met at the Australian titles in 1993 when Stella and her partner beat Mark's combination in the semi-finals of the mixed doubles. Mark took defeat like a man. He fell in love with his conqueror. And when you ask him about her skills, he gets all starry-eyed.
She's very, very quick, and she can help improve my reaction time and try and allow me to be more consistent, at the same time still keeping my power game.
Every time when I play, I always want to win. I don't just want to play for fun. So, yeah, I will try my best to win.
It's my China girl. I feel a wreck without my little China girl.
Stella grew up in the home of table tennis, China, where she was talent spotted as a child. She first picked up a blade at 7 and, believe it or not, became a full-time pro at the age of 11. She came to Sydney to live with her father in 1992.
When you're 11 or 10, then you train 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. It gives you a lot of good training and develop your techniques a lot. And for, like, let's say in Australia, like Mark, he started training seriously when he was 18. But when I was 18, I nearly reached my peak already. So that's the difference.
While Mark is #1 in Australia, he's ranked 224th in the world, and he's a real long shot to make the final rounds of the Sydney Olympics.
Internationally, my power does hold up reasonably well, but it's whether I'm consistent enough will determine whether I can be competitive with the top 20 or 30 players in the world.
Mark and Stella play games as different as East and West. He holds his bat with the standard shake hand or Western grip, while she holds it with the Asian penhold grip. He plays an open, adventurous game based on power. She has a fast, close quarters game based on consistency.
First to 7?
After 11.
11.
Mark reckons that he usually wins his head-to-head battles with Stella. That's what he says anyway. On this occasion, though, we must dutifully report that Stella was the victor. Still, Mark handles defeat well. Remember, after she beat him the first time they met, he tumbled head over heels in love.
All right.
Yep, 2-0. I'm too good.
To the story of a former table tennis champion who is bringing her own unique creations to the Sydney 2000 Olympics.
A kiss on the hand may be quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Marilyn was right. Diamonds are a girl's best friend, and the 34 pieces in this collection are as precious as Olympic gold. It's the work of Australian designer Anne Middleton.
Each piece depicts part of the Olympic Games. Say, for instance, well, actually, the piece that you've got on.
And was the first Australian sportswoman to visit China, back in the days of ping-pong diplomacy.
Back in my table tennis days, table tennis wasn't in the Olympics, and I went to Commonwealth Games and World Championships, so I had a real dream. And when this came up, and I thought, well, I've never been in the Olympics, why not create an amazing piece of Olympic jewellery, which I've done, and I'm the first person ever to design and create a limited collection of jewellery for the Olympics.
Anne still plays a mean game of table tennis. She mightn't have won Olympic gold in her playing career, but that doesn't matter, because diamonds really are this girl's best friend.
Best friend! Oh, for sure.
For the next 10 months, Sportsworld will be covering live the official announcements of each Australian Olympic team. And this morning we have the announcement of our very first squad. Table tennis made its Olympic debut at Seoul in 1988, and Australia fielded a 3-player team. We've also sent teams to both the 1992 and 1996 Olympics. And this morning at Melbourne's Albert Park, the AOC Director of Sport, Craig Phillips, will announce the team. And with him is Sandy Roberts.
Of 9, which is very, very exciting. You talked about the Chinese. To give you an idea of the strength of this particular sport in China, there are more registered players in the country of China than there is the entire population of Australia. So it's going to be a big ask for us, but we're excited down here. We're looking forward to the announcement of the team, and we're not going to keep you in suspense any longer. So let's now join Craig Phillips for the announcement of the Australian table tennis team to contest the medals in Sydney next year.
On behalf of the Australian Olympic Committee, it is my great pleasure to announce the first athletes to be selected to the 2000 Olympic team. They are table tennis players Mark Smythe from Victoria, competing in doubles and singles. Russell Lavale, also from Victoria, competing in the singles. Jeff Plum from the ACT, competing in doubles. Stella Zhou from Victoria, competing in doubles and singles. Jian Fanglei from Victoria, competing in doubles. Also selected, but overseas on touring commitments at the moment, are Shirley Zhou, Meow Meow, Brett Clark and Simon Gerarda. Congratulations to you all, and good luck with your preparation over the coming months. Welcome to the team. Australia's team.
Thank you, Craig.
Moment, Sandy, and on that theme, despite the fact we haven't won an Olympic medal in table tennis, the strength of our team has definitely been boosted through the skills of Asian immigrants. Stella Zhou is such a player. She wore the green and gold in Atlanta in 1996, along with her partner and teammate Mark Smythe. Together, their Olympic experience will be important to the success of our 2000 team.
Stella Zhou was talent spotted at the tender age of 7 when she was still living in China, the international home of table tennis.
When I was 11, I think my goal was to become the #1 player for my team. Because I was a junior at that time, I still got about 10 players above me. So that was my dream when I was 11.
And to fulfil that dream, an 11-year-old Stella trained 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. Yes, Stella Zhou was well and truly a champion athlete in China when luck came our way 6 years ago and she moved to Australia. Next year, she'll wear the green and gold as part of the Australian table tennis team.
Every time when I play, I always want to win. I don't just want to play for fun.
Our Olympic team is only small. They're all pretty close. In fact, Mark Smythe is Stella's boyfriend. And like Stella, Mark's been selected to play both singles and doubles in September 2000. Stella and Mark are one couple that really clash. And when they do, Mark's usually the victor. So he says, anyway.
No, that's it, 2-0. I won today. Tomorrow, fight tomorrow. I won today, that's it. Yep, 2-0. I'm too good.
Yes, perhaps we can ask them who really is the victor when they do play, because Mark and Stella join us now. Firstly, congratulations, Mark. I saw a wry smile come over your face when you were first announced, the first Australian Olympian for Sydney 2000. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, for me it is an absolute honour and privilege to be the first person named.
Well, you know the squad. We've got a team of 9. How do you assess them?
I think we actually have a very good chance to have some good standard matches with us. We had 4 that went to Atlanta. They're now going to Sydney as well, plus another 5. So I think with a few of us that have a bit of experience, we can help the others along as well.
Well, here is the other half of this table tennis team. Stella, congratulations to you. International competition in table tennis, are we getting enough of it?
Probably not at the moment, because we're far away from other countries. It's a bit hard for us to go to overseas, but we do go to overseas sometimes.
What about your preparation now? What's the build-up towards Sydney?
We're going to go away in January, probably in China, to train about 2 months before the World and Commonwealth Championships. And then we go straight from China to Singapore and Malaysia to play the World Championships and Commonwealth Championships.
Well, that's good. You're getting plenty of work before the games. And what about you two when it comes to practice? Because you're boyfriend and girlfriend, you can work on each other's weaknesses and strengths?
Definitely, yeah, that does help a lot. And I would have to say that I win most of the time, but Stella may disagree. But
And in closing, is marriage in the air?
We'll get through Sydney first.
Oh, magnificent. Look, congratulations on being selected for the team. We wish you all the very best. And it's interesting because also joined us today is a man who's in charge of the elite squad when it comes to table tennis. His name is Peter Norman, a name well known in Olympic circles. He joins me now. And Peter, if I'm correct, it was 31 years to the day yesterday you collected a silver medal for this country.
That's right, Mexico 1968. That's the one.
Does it seem a long way away now?
Only yesterday, Sandy.
What about this team? What are your thoughts?
Oh, look, they're a great bunch of players. They're a great bunch of kids, and I think they'll weld together into a really good team.
Is it
even lower than top 100? And of course, with China not being able to put all of their population onto the table in Sydney, everyone moves up a couple of places.
That's good news for us, actually. In closing, if we get a good draw, we could go far.
Particularly with the women's doubles, I think either of our 2 women's doubles teams could sneak up with a good draw and get into the middle rounds.
Thank you, Peter, for your time. So there it is, Bruce, the first Australian team being announced here on Sports World. As you said, this is going to become a regular thing in the weeks and months to come.
Thanks very much for that, Sandy. Terrific stuff. And Peter Norman there, who won a silver medal in the 200 behind Tommy Smythe. Remember the famous Black Power salute? Peter was up there. Let's check that team. Our first team. In singles, Mark Smythe. At his second Olympics, Simon Gerrard. The 18-year-old Russell Lavale's been there before. Shirley Zhou, I should say, with Meow Meow and Stella Zhou. They're not related, the two Chows, by the way, but great players. Jeff Plum and Brett Clark, one doubles team. Simon Gerrard and Mark Smythe, another. And in the women's, Shang Fang Lei, Stella Zhou will be together along with Meow Meow and Stella Zhou. It will be a feature on our program in...
Olympic team has already been named, with still 11 months until the Games begin. The 9-member table tennis team includes one very special doubles partnership.
They're not high-profile players in a high-profile sport, but if they have their way, they soon will be. 5 men and 4 women table tennis players, the first Olympic team to be named. Among them, doubles partners who share more than just a love for the game. Mark Smythe and Stella Zhou are boyfriend and girlfriend as well as teammates.
It's fantastic. We both get we both train together as well as being partners in life, so I mean everything is working out very well at the moment.
Wedding bells could follow Olympic glory. A lack of funding forced the early naming of the team.
We can put all of our money, the limited finance that we've got, into preparing this team.
This will be the largest table tennis team to represent Australia at an Olympics, but in a sport dominated by the Chinese, a medal will be a tough, but they say not impossible achievement. Also putting in...
Australia has named its first team for next year's Olympic Games, but a lack of funds means the players won't have a full-time coach until February. The night
takes on another meaning for Melbourne's Mark Smythe and his partner Stella Zhou. Mark was the first athlete chosen for the Australian Olympic table tennis team for next year. When his partner Stella was also chosen for the women's side, it was the culmination of 4 years of hard work for the duo. At best, table tennis is semi-professional in Australia, so Stella and Mark have trained and coached each other while juggling study and employment. Adam Shand visited the couple training.
So you ready for a beating soon?
Mark Smythe may live to regret his boastfulness. At table tennis, he may overcome his girlfriend, Stella Zhou. But the day is long, and Stella will not rest until she's beaten Mark at something, anything, and beaten him badly.
Scorebook for everything. Table tennis, Monopoly, everything.
For a long time, winning was the only thing for Stella. A product of a state-run academy in China, Stella trained 6 days a week, 7 hours a day, for 6 years. Schooling came a distant second. Leisure and fun were not in the frame.
What would the coach say if you said, listen, coach, I'd rather not hit 1,000 balls today? What would he say?
We never say that. It's really hard. I think you got punishment for saying that if you do it. Like, basically the punishment is like, you just run 10 laps.
And that's not 10 laps of the table, is it?
No, it's the track and field. 10 laps, yeah, 4Ks.
Stella climbed the ranks into the top 5 for Guangzhou province. Hundreds of talented players nipping at her heels.
If you don't perform for 3 matches, it's a good chance you just lose your spot. They just pick someone, and then, okay, you're out.
Mark Smythe has never known such pressure. Like a million Australians, he played his first game in the garage and went on with it. Juggling school and other sports, Mark rose to the top. Oceania champion, Atlanta Olympian. He thought he was competitive until he met Stella.
To be honest, I think that's true. That's a true comment. And she's helped me along a bit to get a bit more mentally tough as well.
In a Today Show exclusive, we pitted Mark and Stella in a battle of the sexes, the first to 11 points. In table tennis, consistency is more important than strength. So who would your money be on?
This is the warm-up, guys. You wait till she gets hot.
If Stella hadn't met Mark, she wouldn't be playing the game now, let alone be preparing for her second Olympics in Sydney. When her family migrated here in 1992, Stella was fed up with table tennis. She wanted to study, have a boyfriend, to enjoy herself.
It's the first time in my life like, I got so much freedom, because before I didn't think about it at all. I just keep going for table tennis.
1-5 to Mark. They first met across the net, a mixed doubles match, Australian Open 1993. Stella won. A year later, the pair had teamed up on and off the court. Stella began to enjoy the game again, and the Olympics beckoned.
She sort of come across a bit more and decided to keep playing in sport, and I think the sport has benefited. Plus, obviously, myself as well as a very, very good practice partner.
8-5 to Mark, but Stella's just getting in the groove.
Is it hard to play against someone that that you're romantically involved with?
No problem at all.
Killer instinct, no problem.
That's right, no problem at all.
Stella claws her way back to 9-8. Then it's 2 match points. Stella to serve. She's got a repertoire of about 8 serves. Here's just a few.
Side spin. Top spin. Back spin.
That's enough of this silly game.
Back to the action.
Yes. 11-9.
11-9.
Thank you.
But Mark, your pain's not over yet, mate. Welcome to Heartbreak Hotel on Bond Street.
Oh, finish.
Oh, yeah.
1,400, come on.
Compared to this pressure, the Olympics should be a breeze.
Oh, God.
Thank
I don't
you.
want to play.
Now, it's your job to figure out now. Because you're a loser.
He's going to bring more Olympic sport into the studio. What I've done, I've got the World Cup of table tennis, a very interesting sport called table tennis. Have a little look at this. Very good footage. For the player. The Lord of the Rings has got an exclusive. Australia's best table tennis player, our #1 contender, Russell.
How you going, Mario?
What's your second name again?
Lavale.
What about your aspirations? It must be exciting for you being Australia's #1 ranked player.
Yeah, definitely.
The Olympic Games are coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is an ideal opportunity. You're playing in the facility that we're going to be playing in Sydney 2000, and looking forward to it, getting a bit of experience here at the venue, and hopefully cause a few upsets.
Trevor, I don't want to dip into your account or anything, mate, but how much does a player earn in table tennis? Say, what about the world's best players? What would they earn? What about in Australia? What are they?
The world's top 10 players are earning millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars?
Yeah, for sure.
For hitting that little ball over the...
That's exactly right.
Not in the wrong game.
Someone in my position, I'm earning enough to live comfortably. I actually play league in France at the moment, so I live in Paris.
I don't make that much money out of playing in Australian table tennis, obviously, because it's not that professional over here, but in Europe there's a lot of money to be made. Most of these guys are on probably 6 figures or more per year.
I've got Bob Tuckett, who's the national coach of the table tennis team and a former national champion himself, the Glue Room.
OK, Mario, let's go through and have a look.
The Glue Room? Let's have it. The Glue Room. Oh, it smells in here.
They come in here, this area has to be highly ventilated. This gentleman from Taipei, he's gluing his bat up. It does take up to 15-20 minutes to glue a bat.
So you're saying there are some illegal glues that players can't use?
That's exactly right. And if they don't pass that test, they're not allowed to
So
use
in the
that
athletics,
bat.
we've got obviously steroids checking and all that, but in the table tennis, we've got glue checking.
Yes, we do have glue checking, as well as, of course, of the drug testing as well.
Let's go and see the chief tester.
OK, let's go through to the chief tester.
Do any of the players sniff the glue or no?
No, the players don't sniff the glue. They would not play so well when they sniff the glue too much. No.
You know what they call me now? The Lord of the Rings. Very nice to meet you, my friend. And guess what? I'm going to come and see you when the Olympic Games are on.
Okay.
You're a good man. I hope you're still here.
You're welcome.
The sniffing of the glue?
No, I let you sniff.
No.
Mario, come on, mate. Let's show us your secret serve you're talking about.
Good, mate. Come on. Yeah, I'm a special secret serve, boy. I've got him under pressure now, boy. I'm going in for the kill. Give you a 4 here, son. Take it easy.
That's very funny.
Very funny, mate.
Having a smashing good time with some Olympic table tennis hot shots? Gotcha. Keep serving them up, champ.
It's a sea of bats and balls, but this is your typical day at the Kilside Sports Centre in Melbourne, where punters come to have a smashing good time.
Now, believe it or not, this game is so popular that over 3 million Australians have played, and it's hard to believe that a recreational activity like table tennis can end up an Olympic sport. But they tell me if you have a good look around this room, you may just find an Olympian.
Just as I suspected, there's one. Russell Lavale, the current Australian men's singles champ.
Russ.
G'day, Mike. How are you?
Lovely to meet you.
You too.
With the introductions taken care of, it's time to get down to some serious on-court business.
This little ball here, it's only 2.5 grams, but it can travel up to 200 kilometres an hour. OK, now, with a serve, it's basically all about spin and placement, not so much power. So what I'm going to do now is give Mike a topspin serve to start. We'll see how he goes.
Oh. Let's take a look at that from the indoor blimp.
This time, I'm going to apply a bit of side spin, and we'll see if Mike can't do a bit better.
The idea here is that the receiver has to pick the spin used and counter it. Apart from spin and placement of the ball, there's also other tactics, like stomping.
Why do you laugh at that?
Stomping when you serve?
You actually stomp when you serve, and what it does is it basically you're trying to disguise the spin that's on the ball.
With the
with the noise, so your opponent actually can't hear the noise it's making on your bat.
There's no doubt this man has all the tricks, and this one's my favourite.
They're sick, these table tennis players, I'm telling you.
Another interesting trick is the use of glue. You apply speed glue to the rubber part of the blade, and it soaks in, giving a trampoline effect to the ball.
Well, mate, if we put a truckload on there, is it going to help me out?
At this stage of your career, Mike, no.
OK. No, I'm going to get flogged.
Getting out of that sticky situation, we thought we'd visit two of Russell's fellow Olympians who live nearby. Stella Zhou and Mark Smythe are a real love match. They first met in 1993 at the Australian titles. Now they live together and train together. So, has Stella got a secret weapon?
I got pimples. I use pimples. What is this like that? That's what we call pimples, because you can actually see the pimples.
And the Europeans don't?
No, they got smooth rubber, so they are smooth. I got no spin in my game, but my game's really quick. So that's my advantage.
Russell assures me that if I want to be half as good as Stella, it's pure practice. So I'm back at the centre doing that ultimate exercise, multi-ball.
No chance.
What are you doing?
Does not cover in live telecast like the table tennis. Look, we're only happy to oblige Tony, or it might be Terry. Listen, Fatso's taking these cameras to the ping pong this week, or today, and this is what he brought back.
Yeah, you wanted it.
Here it is. Pong, ping, pong, ping. Ping, pong, ping, pong, ping, pong. Ping, pong, ping, pong. Ping, pong, ping, pong, ping. Yes, it was good, wasn't it?
It's a great...
It's news, all right.
A wave of green and gold, a boxing kangaroo and the obligatory chant. No, this isn't the swimming, not the equestrian or even the archery. We're at the quarterfinals of Olympic table tennis. And believe it or not, the Aussies are playing.
I think it's the first time in history, actually, the Australian players get into the quarterfinal, and hopefully they can just keep going to the next round, and it will be great for table tennis in Australia.
Shirley, Zhou and Meow Meow are the pair that have taken ping pong off the Aussie patio and turned it into Olympic table tennis. They're in the top 8 and up against China. But look at the stats now and you start to get nervous. There are 20 million people in Australia. There are 20 million table tennis players in China.
Yes, I certainly am a bit nervous myself, but hopefully with the crowd going berserk here, and we'll be able to get them through.
Our women's pair put up a fight. Went down in 3 sets. The first Australians to reach a quarter-final in Olympic table tennis, and the first table tennis tournament to be played to the strains of waltzing Matilda.
Absolutely wonderful for Australian table tennis, and just hopefully now that we have more publicity and so on, that it could become a more popular sport.
Up who will be debuting their first time at the Olympics this time round.
Yeah.
Okay, second question. Who's slightly shitting themselves? Hands up. All of you. All right. Well, let's get...
We're looking forward to Athens.
It's going to be very exciting. Now, what about you, Davy Z? Davy Z? DJ Davy Z? It just sounds hip. Yeah. Table tennis. Now, not many people would be aware of table tennis as an Olympic event.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when I was about 12, I went on one of those sporting camps and did a different sport every day, a bit of tennis, a bit of cricket, a bit of footy, and I thought to myself, how can I be the biggest, sporting hero in Australia? And then it hit me, table tennis.
Now, when you first announced that you wanted to be a table tennis player, because you just used to play in your rompus room at home like everybody else, so when you said, I want to become a professional table tennis player, what was people's reaction?
I guess at school, maybe, copped a little bit of flack, but, I mean, lucky we had a chess club, because that sort of took a bit of... It's all right.
And Big Dave, David A, I'll ask you this. Question, David. Your first event is the day after the opening ceremony, and you demanded, you and your teammate William have demanded, we want to be at the bloody opening ceremony.
That's right.
That's Aussie.
That's us.
That's table tennis. Hardcore.
You got it.
So how hard did you have to fight to be able to attend the opening ceremony? And will you be able to enjoy yourself knowing you start the next day?
I think for me there could be nothing more motivating than actually being in the opening ceremony in front of everyone, and that's what it's all about. I guess it's like the symbol of the Olympic Games, and yeah, we fought pretty hard, and hopefully it's going to pay off and we'll be able to march.
Now, a show of hands, I guess, or who thinks you'll be able to come back with a medal? Which of you thinks you've got a chance? You're okay. You got a medical degree to fall back on. You're fine. So David, you have to go in for ask about superstitions. Anybody got any superstitions, good luck charms, thing like that they do? Dave, you first?
Me first?
Yeah, do you have a good luck charm? Yeah, superstitious, anything you do to make sure everything goes smoothly?
I've got my lucky undies, mate. Good boy.
Do you have some on tonight?
I do have the, I've got to admit, I've had them for 6 years, so I'm sorry if they smell a bit, but I'm going to show you. Want to have a look?
Yeah, show us. Here we go. It's a lucky charm. Josh, you might get lucky, my friend. You don't know. So what about the rest of you? Any... David, this is for you. If that doesn't work, I don't know what will. David, just a best of luck to our Athens Olympians.
Sick, but I've always loved watching the table tennis at the Olympics. There's only one man, I think, who could spoil the magic.
Here I am for my quest for gold. I've tried synchronised diving, I've had a crack at fencing, made a goose of myself, but this is something I'm very, very good at. Ping pong, table tennis, call it what you want. I'm going there for gold.
I'm Dave. I'm William. I'm Trev.
This is amazing. You all play professionally, like you get paid to play table tennis and around the world.
That's right. I play professionally in France, have done for 5 years now. I play in Sweden. I've been there for the last couple of years. Yeah, I play in Sweden too. I mean, it's really tough life, those blonde, gorgeous Swedish girls. Every day is just that little bit harder than the day before.
And obviously they don't care about hairstyles and stuff like that. Over the journey of Athens, who's going to be the biggest competitors to?
The Chinese, the Swedes, they're very good.
Well, I'm a little bit nervous, but gee, this Pro Tour sounds all right. So let's have a hit and I'll show you what I got. Yeah. OK, I've got a comp. 1 point. Winner goes to Athens. Loser gets punishment.
Do it, mate.
Far out. My last chance.
Oh, bad luck. OK, so what's the punishment?
Oh, next one. Not real. I think my quest for gold's nearly finished. I'm no good at anything. I'm going to stick to footy. I might even go to coaching. Good luck, boys.
Saying before, there's only 9 sleeps to go until the Athens Games commence, and most of our Aussie athletes are currently off in Europe at training camps, buffing and toning and bringing themselves to physical peak. But we found one who is yet to leave. He's heading
the real
off,
athletes.
He is heading off on toughest, arguably known to modern athlete. I speak, of course, of table tennis. Would you please welcome one member of our 6-person squad going over to Athens, the Aussie ping pong squad. Please welcome David Zalcberg, who's going to... Because we figure they're special secret instruments. Do we stand a remote chance of a medal in Athens?
Well, let's be honest, it's a tough competition.
The Chinese?
Yeah, they're the team to beat. They're the reigning world champions. But, look, I'm a pretty competitive guy. I like to win a lot.
You play in Europe, don't you? Where do you live? You live in Australia? You play over there a fair bit?
Yeah, I play in Sweden.
Big money over there?
Well, it's a professional sport, actually. Believe it or not, we get paid to play in...
Sorry to use this tone, but table tennis is a professional sport in Sweden.
Hey, table tennis is a very sexual sport. And I think that's why, like, the profile is so high in Sweden.
Why do you say sexual?
Well, I mean, when you think about it, I've got my wood, I've got my, I cover it in 2 rubbers, and I go around knocking balls all day. I mean,
yeah. When you put it like that...
At the table tennis sportsman's night.
There's obviously big money on it, but are you still playing in rumpus rooms?
It's funny you say that, actually. The irony of being an Olympic table tennis player is that every time I meet somebody new, they always tell me if I came over to their place and played them on their table, I'd have no chance.
Everyone thinks it's like a set of drums at a party. When you get on the drums, you go, I reckon I could play drums. And when you play table tennis, I reckon I could. We actually had a game today.
You played with David?
We went. It was Rob's idea. You want to explain your idea, Rob? You roll the tape. He did a very interesting thing. He's able to predict what the ball will do off my bat before I actually hit it. Yeah.
Table tennis magic.
Before you hit it?
He said, no, I'm going to make you hit it left. I'm going to make you hit it right. I'm going to make you hit it in the air.
Let's see.
Get that there again? I'll head over there.
With the ball up in the air.
Up in the air. We should have a game now. Good luck.
Thanks, you too, mate. All the best.
So those jeans are the national costume.
Well played.
Great game.
We played 3... Because you only play up... You only play up to 11. We had 3 games, and I won. Well, you lost 1 point. I didn't win anything. I could not get the ball back.
Why is if you can do that to him? Why does the Chinese master know what you're doing and combat that?
I guess it's all about the fact that they train every day, and
Reading
it's all
your
about
hand.
they just read the spin. They watch what I do, and they can pick the spin as I hit the ball, and they know that the right.
It really was incredible because as soon
as
as I put the ball in play, he could smash it, and then we had a shower afterwards.
Can I give you a tip?
Yeah.
Can I give you a tip before you go? Always put a coaster down because your stubbies leave little rings on the table when you're playing. No, they really do.
What level of fitness is actually required to play table tennis? Any?
Actually, you'd be surprised, but I probably train 6 days a week, about 6 hours a day.
But skill training as opposed to fitness. I mean, could you smoke and drink and still be brilliantly sharp?
Probably not, no. I probably do about 2 hours in the gym every day, between an hour and 2 hours every day.
And what are the other 4 hours?
That's actually on the table, Kate. Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
You do have to hear a few balls.
Well, no, I thought that was like being fit.
And when you have rallies, remember, excuse me, Forrest Gump. Remember that he but you can play like that. Remember that scene?
Yeah, I know exactly the way.
You have rallies like that, don't you?
Yeah, we have rallies where we stand about 2 metres back from the table.
And they're fair income rallies. They're not like you're not doing that for show.
No. That's trying to win the point. Yeah, you hit every ball as hard as you can, and you end up both of you about 2 metres back. So that's intense.
And you're is table tennis the first day of the game?
Yeah, definitely. We start on the 14th, day 1.
So does that mean you get to go to you're not allowed to go to the opening ceremony, then, are you?
No, I was adamant. I spoke to John Coates and I said we have to march, and for me, there'd be nothing more motivating. Than,
how are the other athletes with you? Like, is it sort of a bit of a joke?
Pecking order? Or is it
how do they regard you?
The smaller your balls, the less important you are.
Touch of that. Are you on day 1?
Are they or not?
Seriously, day 1. Get there early so you get the good bat. Seriously, that's where it's won or lost. I promise you. You've got to get the first.
You will be marching out into the stadium.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty motivated. I think I've been dreaming about this day since I was a little kid, and I mean, you think about, of course, getting on the table, but I mean, it's all about what marching to that opening ceremony.
Are you going to take a video camera out with you, or
are we allowed to do that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't like it, but we'll video it for you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
We will have a copy. We wish you the best. I don't know about your prospects. We asked you earlier about your medal prospects, and you were quoted as saying, "My main aim is gold at the 2006 Commonwealth Games." So obviously, Olympics are just the stepping stone to the main event.
We're going to look forward to watching you. In fact, a lot of people in Australia now are going to watch you.
Absolutely,
you're going to get a lot of herograms
from us.
Bring it on.
If no one else, best of luck, and thanks for dropping by. David Zalcberg, please.
Australian Olympians are heading for the final leg of their Athens build-up. Among them, Melbourne medal hope David Zalcberg. And despite the uncertainty over security, the 23-year-old is both defiant and excited. Tony Jones met him.
Although table tennis doesn't enjoy the Olympic profile of track and field or swimming, David Zalcberg is hoping to change that. Farewelled by his mother Lynette, David jetted out of Melbourne today. Europe is the destination, with just a hint of trepidation.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a bit of a scare. It's never comfortable anywhere in the world when there's a bomb that goes off, but I feel as though, during the Olympics, there's so many personnel. 45,000, it's just enormous.
With the table tennis venue neighbouring the main Athens stadium, any fears have been allayed by the reassurances of Australian Olympic boss John Coates.
Athletes Village is the safest place on earth. That's pretty reassuring for me, It's good enough anyway.
While Athens will be the 23-year-old's first Olympics, his national duties date back to 1997, with not-so-pleasant memories. A flag bearer for Australia at the Makaling Games in Israel, Zalcberg almost became a victim of the tragic bridge collapse which claimed the lives of 2 people.
Probably from waist down, I was soaked, and fortunately the army arrived really quickly and pulled us out. It was complete mayhem when the event happened, but I guess I got lucky.
Denied the chance on that occasion to march into a packed stadium, the would-be medalist is determined to make amends. So as athletes like David set off on their journey to Athens, they take with them a message for anyone who dares to disrupt their dream.
Looking forward to going there, and it's going to take a lot more than a few bombs to stop me from walking, so I'm pumped,
Tony Jones, National 9 News.
Shoulders, maybe the body position, but basically it's just reacting.
And what's the most difficult one to pick? The underspin?
No, that's a good one.
That's a good
when
one.
they're giving you this one, you're getting excited. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, she comes, baby.
Because you know the ball's going to sit up.
It's going to sit up and we're ready to clout it. But it's when they start getting in with their big, aggressive forehands, and then you've got to really be sharp.
You don't see the lob used very often, do you?
No. Actually, the stadium was a little bit too windy. I was ready to give him a few lobs, but the ball was blowing around, so no, we had to stay close to the table.
And how will the competition unfold from here? Obviously, you know, you'd assume one of the Chinese people will win it, but is there any suggestion that somebody could?
The Chinese are the best. We do have a Swede who's he's the best player ever, and he's sort of at the end of his career. But you know, you can never count him out. He's the man. He's the man.
He's still got the eyes. It's in the eyes.
He's got the blood.
The blood.
It's in his blood. Yeah.
Now, it is hard to imagine that in Sweden they've got carports with table tennis tables set up on them, or, you know, but it's a country that lives a lot indoors.
That's right.
So in basement of houses, are there table tennis tables set up and people go down for a few, you know, ends?
Yeah. Oh, well, we're lucky it's an indoor sport, so, you know, when it's minus 15 degrees outside, we can still train. But no, they've set up clubs and, you know, stadiums, and people actually come and watch table tennis overseas. So.
And you live in a hotel there.
Yeah.
How did this deal come about? I understand you're sponsored by the hotel.
So I walked into a hotel one day when I was over there, and I sort of gave them a bit of chat and just tried to, I don't know, I told them that I was going to advertise their hotel on the back of my playing shirt, and they actually
fell for it. They bought it.
What were they thinking? They give me a free room.
Does medicine still beckon, Dave? Are you still thinking I might go back and
The
pick up the
$1 million
scalpel?
question. Yeah, look, like I said, living in a hotel, you can get used to that life. I tell you what, you know, private jacuzzi and all, but...
Yeah, but the Hippocratic Oath, it must beckon.
It's there. I'm halfway through my degree, and, you know, maybe people say I sort of am on the same wavelength as kids, so there's always, you know, paediatrics or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But, you know, you might have 15 years in the game, in the, you know, the double rubber game.
Yeah.
And then there'd be plenty of time enough to pick up the white lab coat and the stethoscope and, you know, have a listen to Hearts, if that was what your go was.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I've got the stethoscope on the back burner for now. It's still sitting there. It's on the mantelpiece. You know, I'm thinking about it, but for now, I'm just having a great time, so I'm going to keep playing. And, you know, Beijing's coming up, and that's just going to be awesome. So
Will be awesome.
Hopefully we'll even, you know, have a better result over there. So.
And my prediction is that Australian table tennis will go through the roof.
The sleeping giant?
The sleeping giant will become the giant, standing up and wandering around, hitting topspin, you know, underspin, anything, flat bat, anything you bloody like. And even though China win every bloody medal except those won by Thorpe, I can see you taking golden table tennis.
Yeah, that's right.
Look, thanks for coming on the show, and you get a souvenir of your time with us today. It's the golden shovel.
Oh,
the golden shovel. It's just a little bit small. The only way you can get this pin is coming on the show. It's a bit small to play table tennis, and Roy's got a companion item for you.
Yes, it's the golden wipes for you.
We need them, though.
I know, mate. I know. Need them. Enjoy in the hotel. Take these back with you.
And so enjoy the rest of the fortnight here, David.
As we love it, being an Olympian isn't only about winning medals. Just getting there is often the greatest triumph. Before Trevor Brown even stepped onto the plane for Athens, he'd already won gold in courage and commitment.
I have never been aced on a table tennis table before.
3 times in a row.
Oh!
Everything I've done, every minute of the day, for the last 2 years has been geared towards qualifying for the Olympic Games. I'll give you a smash at it.
You've probably never heard of Trevor Brown. He's a determined and tenacious athlete with an attitude that truly is never say die. He even told his doctors that.
And they told my parents that I had about 3 months to live, and nothing could be done.
When Trevor was 12, doctors discovered a large and aggressive tumour in his brain.
It was never a question of whether I was going to be all right or not. In my mind, there was no doubt, and that I was going to be better, and I'd get through the operation and just continue on my way. So I didn't accept it at all, no.
Better run through your checklist.
Yes, okay. Bat, shoes, towel, shirt, shorts, glue, drink bottle, jock, socks.
Got it.
How sick was he?
He was very sick. It's the worst thing, just about, that a parent can experience when you're told your child only has a few months to live.
And there we go.
David and Audrey were in shock. Their son was a healthy and athletic kid who lived for his sport, especially table tennis.
What did he say to you in hospital about pulling through?
Well, I don't think he ever accepted that he wouldn't. He just said, I'm going to beat this. Those were his words.
Exactly, yeah. He wanted to be in the Olympics from when he was a little kid.
Doctors at the Royal Children's in Melbourne operated on the centre of Trevor's brain for 8 hours. It was extreme high risk, but it worked.
And even when he got home from hospital, he was only 12 years old. He had a patch over one eye, and he got back on that table tennis table and was playing straight away.
You were keen. And how did you play?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, this is my room when I'm back, the spare room. I'm on the road.
Now this King Kong of ping pong, sorry Trev, has one very crowded house. Victorian champion, national champion, Oceanic champion.
There's only one missing.
Yeah, oh look, that'd be nice to add to the collection, wouldn't it? Olympic Games medal. Jeez.
Gold.
Oh yeah.
But anything, eh?
Oh yeah.
Silver, bronze.
Oh, look, I wouldn't knock that back.
You're not wearing these jocks, are you, Trev? They're my lucky undies, man.
So can you two play table tennis?
Oh. Oh, we have a hit every now and again, but the trouble is he always spins the ball away from me. I just can't hit it.
Oh, I know the feeling, Dave.
Oh, shot.
You're about to play the greatest match of your life, the Olympics.
That's right, yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Oh, look, it's something that I've dreamt of. I'm dreaming about it at night, you know, so it's going to be extremely difficult. The competition is very, very fierce, and we are underdogs, but, you know, give it all we've got.
Yeah, what a champion. Marty King getting wiped off the table again and again. So apart from beating Marty, we would love to tell you that Trevor won a medal in Athens. Unfortunately, he's been knocked out. Still, there's no arguing he is a real champion. More in a moment.